Okay, so one very important attribute that I usually want in my whitewater particles is the attribute called state. And here, if you notice on the main properties, you have this attribute turned off. In my opinion, this should be on by default because it will give you a very important attribute that I personally use in most of the cases. So I will bring your attention to the whitewater object. So select the whitewater object node and scroll down where it says guides. Let's turn on the color particles by depth and let's press play just to simulate a few frames. Now you will notice that here the particles that are riding the surface of the fluid, they are colored white. The particles that are high above the surface are starting to get a color green, while the particles that are beneath the surface are colored red. And notice how by default this range of visualization goes from -1 to 1. -1 being below the surface and 1 being above. So let me change this range to 0.5 and positive 0.5. So notice how we have a tighter range. The particles go green much faster. They also start to turn red much faster. And you can think of these three colors of the state of the particles: white being the foam particles, red being the bubbles, and green being the spray. So let me show you this in the geometry spreadsheet. You can click on the geometry spreadsheet tab and under the whitewater object, find the geometry. Now, if you take a look at the point attributes, we have an attribute called bubble with values that go more or less around 0 to 0.75. There's also an attribute called foam with values ranging from 0 to 1. And we should also have the attribute called spray. This one will also have values ranging from 0 to 1. And it is important to make this distinction because not only you can differentiate these particles at render time with different shaders or even particle scales or transparencies, but you can also control these different particles during the simulation. For example, you can add more drag to the foam particles, while you could add wind to the spray particles, or probably add more turbulence to the bubble particles. So again, I would strongly recommend that when you start to set up your whitewater solver, make sure to turn the state attributes on.